great. I think I was listening to Yash and I realized, realized and reflected as well that how HR has emerged over the years. And I was reflecting on my personal journey that I started working sometime in 2010 in a tier 2 city. And I so well remember at that point of time, fun at work was a big word. And we used to hear in, a small city that places like Mumbai and Delhi and corporates, they are now appointing chief fun officer. I think down the line after 2-3 years, employee satisfaction survey became employee engagement survey gradually. And I think from there, we have big time moved to employee experience and employee life cycle. And that's how, I was reflecting to the evolution I have experienced during my work piece in HR space. And with that, I think the first question and a warm-up question I would like to ask, in today's time, which are the top touch points in employee life cycle, which I remember used to be maybe learning and development, performance appraisal, induction became onboarding, etc. But I think after pandemic, the landscape has changed big time. So which are the critical touch points in employee life cycle in maybe 1 or 2 organizations we can take up? Maybe Chandra, you want to start?
Yeah, thank you, Pooja, for that. See, to my mind, the question is, what is not a touch point? For example, employees are, to be employees, are first of all going to look at your website. Okay. They are going to look at your career pages. They are going to then search for the LinkedIn profile of your leaders. They are going to see what is it that you are creating in social media. Your own LinkedIn page. They are going to see your Instagram page. So I'm starting with that. What is not an employee touch point? To my mind, the organizations can never, slack up. Everything is a touch point. Then starting with how they are applying for the job on the job portal. What kind of experience they are having over there. Okay. Then, of course, the personal meeting. What kind of invites they are getting, how they are getting greeted when they are coming for interviews, or today you have Teams interviews, what is the experience? How the person at the other end, is your hiring manager trained in how to use Teams for interviews? Or, is he keeping himself, keeping the video off? What kind of, experience you are giving to the candidate? So I am trying to say that everything. Then after that, during the period, today it is 90 days. So during those 90 days, what experience the candidate is having with you? Are you engaging him? Are you, is somebody from your team talking to him, being in touch with him? Is he getting inculcated into the organization culture? So that period. Then the day he joins, what kind of experience he has with his team, with his managers, with his HR. And then, of course, it is an ongoing basis. And all of us, many of us here are from HR. After that, we know what kind of experience, managers should not say, Acha, you have come. Okay, I think I don't have a place for you today. I was following up with admin. But okay, we'll make some temporary arrangement. I can see some smiles and maybe it is then, echoing with some of you. So, that kind of thing, what is happening? Cafeteria, is there anybody to take them? I'm talking basic things, but I think that is very important. So that is the employee life cycle. After that, there is the employee portal. What does he learn about the organization? What does he learn about the leaders? About the culture of the organization in the portal? Is there anything? Portals can be of 2 types. You can put all basic policies in the portal, or you can put personal stories in the portal, so that they know their leaders. What kind of portal do you have? That is the challenge I want to ask. you know, to my HR colleagues here. So this is what I would like to say as, you know, employee touch points, Pooja. I feel it is a life journey, the you know, complete journey. Yeah. Thank you, Pooja.
And I think, you know, many of these things people would also like to talk a lot on LinkedIn about their experiences now. I remember one of the days we were having conversation, okay, do we give joining kit to interns or no? They are here for, you know, 2 months. And then we were like, no, we have to give because they will click a picture and put a photograph on, you know, LinkedIn that, okay. That also talks about that you are cared, you are here for 2 months, but you are valued immensely. And I think these are the experiences, you know, people are talking about. Tanya, you want to add something with your global experience?
Yeah, my opinion is slightly different. So I feel that do unto others what you expect them to do to you. I think all of us, while, you know, we're all people managers, and that goes for the entire organization. And I think I'd like to divide the touch points of an employee into 2 or 3 parts. One is, while the person is coming in, what is the experience that you're creating? How do you excite the person? What is the chemistry? You know, there are reasons why people work for a certain organization and they don't work for a certain organization. And that's not to say that, you know, people in Google don't leave or people in Amazon don't leave. They do. So what is the experience that you're creating when you're getting a person to come into the organization? Then is the middle part. What are those touch points that you're creating for an employee who's coming in? You know, how you're having these discussions, how you're having your training programs, how you're interacting, how are you doing the engagement, how are you actually conversing with the employees? And that's a culture which every people manager away from human resources is what we need to influence as stakeholders. So that's the entire piece. You know, it could be training programs, it could be performance discussions, it could be development discussions, it could be succession planning discussions, it could be talent management. All of these are touch points, and these are very, very important touch points for every employee because you create that experience. You create that sense of belonging of an employee. After that, how do you treat the person when the person's leaving? That is a very, very sensitive angle. And that's where most of us as people, and I'm not even saying HR managers, I'm saying as people managers, we get wrong. Because, you know, you think, oh, the person's left. But what is it that we are going to create? What is the experience that we're creating? How do you make the person a brand ambassador? And how do you engage those people who have left to come back? I think that's very important. And that's what we need to influence all our stakeholders to understand that, you know, we are just not we've not got a diktat to say that, oh, that's what we need to do as HR managers. No, they are extensions of us. They need to treat the people that in the organization very, very well. So every touch point, every interaction with every employee is a touch point.
Yeah, true, very true. And you know, this reminded me, yesterday I got a call from one of the organization, and they do only alumni management with employees. So they said, we can, you know, gather your group of employees who have already left. They can be your brand ambassador. We can do little employer branding around, you know, how are you connecting with them? They can help you source right people because they know your organization, you know, better than anyone else maybe outside of your organization. So I think, yeah, you know what at each point they experience, and then going even beyond, which we never thought, you know, alumni can be a brand ambassador.
No, I'll give you an example. We were just discussing, you know, just before this we were discussing, and I'm quoting your own conversations. She's ex-Aditya Birla. I never met her before. She said, you know, the processes that we had, I worked for an ex-MNC, were much better. And that stayed, because that's the experience that one has created for each one of us. Just hand on heart, just think of all those experiences you've had and why you like a particular company.
Yeah. And I think with, as Yash also mentioned, you know, in the first session, that with hybrid, very, very, you know, established in some part of the world before a decade long, and now it is coming big time here. How employee experiences and life touch points, you know, change when you have both set of employees working. How managers need to maybe, as Tanaya said, that they need to take care in each and every moment of employee. So how you actually empower managers to do it? Amit, you want to throw some light on that?
So yeah, I think it's a great point around how is it, you know, and from a touch points perspective, if you look at, a lot of conversations, and I think you started by saying this, that when you start in a tier 2, tier 3 kind of city, and if you were to just take India as a country, right? So, I mean, honestly, this country is really not about Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi. This country is about Rehala, Behala, Shambhupura. And when you have a diverse workforce that's spread across the country, right? What do people look for? Effectively, I think there are 3 or 4 things, right? One is, fundamentally, do you respect people? Yeah? And I think respect is a very, very, very fundamental quality that really determines whether people stay in organizations or not. Because we talk of aligning with, with values. We talk of aligning with purpose. I think the fundamental purpose that always comes through in any conversation that you talk about is one of respect. The second one that comes through is the concept of trust. And I think we alluded to that, right? To say that, why is it that someone always needs to be in the office? Because you're saying, I need to watch you to know whether work is happening or not. So I think part of empowering managers actually comes from 2 fundamental principles. One is respect, the other is trust. I think the third is really, which is becoming increasingly important, and it was not so relevant, I would say maybe 5, 7, 10 years ago, is what is the posture that an organization takes on social issues. So let's take a couple of examples, right? In the US, you had this whole Black Lives Matter concept, or you had, a situation wherein, the central legislation, passed a law that made abortion illegal in certain parts of the country or in certain states. Now, 20 years ago, you would have said, look, this is a political thing. I don't need to take a stand as a company. How does it matter? But today, employees look up to you on how do you stand on social issues. Simply because the ecosystem has gone significantly just beyond where you stand as between an employer-employee relationship. And the reason why that happens is, and this is something that's always struck with me, when I was traveling with a sales colleague, and he asked me, and we were around the 27th, 28th of the month, and she actually asked me, do you know who pays our salary? So I said, that's a strange question. Obviously, the company pays your salary, right? And she said something that stayed with me, and this was 10 years ago. She said, the customer pays our salary. It's not the employer who pays your salary. What that means is that if anything that you do, even as a manager from an empowerment perspective, doesn't align to meeting the needs of a customer or somebody who's front-facing with the customer, right? That's where you really lose the plot, honestly. So companies that do these simple things well, right, which is respect, which is trust, which is understanding, taking a view on social issues and calling out a point of view, because that is your greatest indication of inclusion, right? You can have a great function, pardon my provocativeness. You might have a great function on March 8th, yeah? Or you could have a great function on December 3rd, which is International Day of Disabilities. But how do you stand when the Supreme Court is taking today a verdict on what is the legitimization of same-sex marriages? How does it reflect in what you do as policies, processes? This is really what empowers managers, right? Because then they know that there is an organization that's standing behind them when it comes to being able to take these calls. So I think it's a fallacy for us to think as HR that managers should be taking all the empowering decisions. We've got to help them, give them that confidence, along with the organization, that it's okay to take, to have a point of view. It's okay to stand for something that you believe is right. And that's what really translates to when people bring their whole self to work, right? I mean, what's bringing your whole self to work? It's about bringing your personality. So I think, these are some ways in which, organizations can actually work through to empower managers to give them the confidence that they should be doing the right thing.
Yeah, and it's really setup agnostic, right? Whether you are in hybrid, you are here or there. These are basic fundamentals which needs more focus than maybe anything else. Great. Swarup, you want to add something here?
Yeah. Hello. Hello. I'm so sorry. Yeah. So, is it fine? Yeah. Okay. So, thing is that, first thing is that for me is the biggest touch point, as Tanya has mentioned, is that how you greet a person. When a person comes in, how you greet a person, and the most, after that, you know, how we manage them, okay? In terms of how we recognize a person, do we appreciate his efforts? Okay, that's one of the key aspects. And most of the organization, what I have seen is that when person departs, okay, that's the most pathetic part of it, is that person has to follow for month time for his full and final settlement, okay? So that's, you know, most of the organization I have seen that they greet a person with bouquet and flower when he leaves, then they'll go and they'll, you know, give bad remarks about reference, they will check, they will screw up, and all those things, and full and final will not get settled. So the kind of respect when we are giving a person in, and when a person goes out, that person deserves a respect as well, okay? So all of us are human beings, and humans needs to grow further, okay? If not here, and they are, after all, they are the brand ambassador, okay? So they are going to talk about your organization wherever you go. So for me, these are some of the touch points that employer needs to, you know, take care of, or maybe, you know, concern about, and work upon it, so that people have a very good experience in the organization while they are staying and while they are going out.
Sure. And I think with that, let's move to the tech side of the topic. Avinash, you want to talk maybe about how technology can play some very meaningful role in the whole process of employee life cycle.
Okay. Hi, so I'll just give you all a small background to Better Place first. We are an HRMS platform catering to the frontline workforce. We would have around 16 million frontline workers that we have engaged with over the years. So it's very important to understand the frontline workforce, the essence of what these people carry as with your organization. They are the face of your organization. They are the one, as we said, the brand ambassadors of your organization, right? So it's very important that we keep them engaged. Now, when you talk about technology, that is one of the critical areas where we kind of, you know, leverage that engagement. So it's very important that when this person who's going out in the field, like Yash mentioned earlier, he said that 90% of his employees are outside. 8% of them sit in the office, actually, right? So these people need to be, the only way to reach out to them is through technology. So there are different touch points that you have with them. We all spoke about onboarding, we spoke about payrolling, we spoke about background verification, something that we do as well, right? So it's very important that he has a smooth experience along all this. Now, the problem is that we as HR leaders here, we think of the ideal candidate and we design or we choose platforms that are most ideal for the right, perfect candidate. But this person who's sitting out there in the field, who's talking to doctors, like Yash said, right? He's in a place, in a remote area, talking to a doctor where there's no network out there possibly. Does that application support low code or no code, right? Because that's what he needs there at that point of time. He doesn't need a fancy tool that will give him all the benefits, all the features, you know, on that application. He needs something very basic. Is the UI simple enough for him to navigate through? That is very critical as well for this frontline workforce. So these are some of the technology interventions that we have tried to design when we create our platforms for people that we manage at our end. We keep it simple, something like being vernacular, right? For these, India's a diverse country,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
So we need to make sure that these apps that we design today for HR platforms, that they are vernacular nature. Do they support that? You can have a fancy UI, but is he able to understand what he's going through? Maybe yes, maybe not. So very critical that he does that, right? So technology is very important from that point. What we have, like someone once said, you are trying to kill a mosquito with an atom bomb. That is what we are doing today, right? We are giving him the best of everything, but does he really need that? Maybe yes, maybe not, right? So very important to understand that.
Sure, thank you. Amit, you want to add something, you know, how are you using technology in, you know, various life stages of employees?
No, so two things about technology, right? Technology is a great servant, but is a very dangerous master. And what I mean by that is you must recognize that technology is for us. We are not for technology. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, and I think you made that point, you know, really well, which is mindless application of something that really looks good in the name of technology, right? Is, I think, the worst mistake that you can make, particularly if you have a diverse workforce. let's think of it this way, right? Technology should either be able to bring people closer, or it should be able to solve a problem. From a workforce perspective, there could be 100,000 other applications, but fundamentally, from an employee perspective, it should either allow that employee to feel closer, engaged, or it should be able to solve a problem. Now, as long as you use these two filters, you will be able to find that you are able to meaningfully leverage this to be able to drive a culture of trust. It also stems fundamentally not just from what an employee wants, but also what an employee needs. And if you were to go back to, let's say, the time of 2020, right? Everyone got on Teams, everyone started doing meetings, everyone, everything came on. And I think Yash made that point. I think Chandra also made that point about, do you keep your camera on? Now, we found, interestingly, and this was in my previous organization, when we were talking to salespeople across the country, cameras wouldn't come on, people were hesitant to come on meetings at the time of the pandemic. Now, there's one thing to say, which is, we need to know what you're doing, right? So therefore, tell us. But when you probed a little bit, and it's a really interesting finding that we had. If you look at an average family size in India, right? Let's say there is an individual, a spouse, and let's say 2 school-going kids, on an average, give or take. Now, in 2020, maybe quick show of hands, if you can tell me, in an average household of 4, how many of us actually had 4 laptops in the house in 2020? Very few of us, right? Maybe handful. It's because we had not anticipated that we'll be in a situation where this would be needed, right? So if there is a salesperson who you need to be in touch with and you need to have a conversation, and his or her spouse is working, the 2 kids are going to school, so education is happening online, and you're expecting this person to be in meetings all day long. And there is only one laptop or at best 1 more computer at home. How does the person come on? How does the person attend meeting? It's a fundamental need, right? So technology is great when you're able to leverage and connect. But if you don't understand the fundamental need that it fulfills for an individual. So actually, to step back, we took a call at that point in time, and we told all our sales folks, we told all our folks across actually, please prioritize your children's education. What it means is, therefore, if you need to reschedule and make more meetings happen in the second half of the day, please do so that kids can attend school in the first half, right? It's a small message around how is it that you're able to leverage technology powerfully. The second is, most of us, we've got a workplace at home, you've got a nice plant, you've got someone who gives you a cup of coffee, and you're able to connect and you're able to do it. Another reason why people don't put on cameras when you're doing this, right, is they're ashamed for you to look that you will get into their house wherein you'll find that there are clothes that are probably hanging at the back when the meeting comes on, right? So if you're able to give confidence to people that there is no shame in being in a personal situation that you are in today, simply because it's not about you, but it's about the situation, the workplace, then technology becomes a significant enabler, because what it does is, A, it enables respect, B, it enables confidence in the individual, that even if I put this on, no one judges me. So technology can be a great leveler, right? I mean, otherwise you have situations in meetings where people don't speak, right? If they are in a room and, this is the biggest barrier to inclusion, wherein the most silent person in the room is the one who doesn't have a conversation. Technology is a great leveler. It allows you to be able to leverage and, put all of that out. So, like I said, technology is a great servant if you recognize what it can do for you, but it can be a terrible master if you expect it to solve all of your problems. It's a means to an end. So what we found is, with a diverse workforce, understand what's the need you expect it to solve. Understand it's a means to an end, not an end in itself. And make sure that it, like I said, right, it either brings the individual closer to other colleagues or it solves a problem for the individual. These filters normally make, application of technology in a diverse workforce or in a spread out workforce pretty much simpler.
So Pooja, this was not a question, but I worked in a tech company, so
all of you anytime.
so let me also share with you, how you can use technology to take informed decisions. As you know, that BPO is a big boom in at one point in time it was a big boom, and it still continues to employ a large workforce. We suddenly found a lot of suicides which happened, particularly in Chennai. So we actually use data and big data and predictive indices to understand why is it that is happening. And through this, we were able to predict that what kind of problems are going to come in a particular facility. To that level, you can use technology. Now, let me tell you why it happened. So it happened because in Chennai, we found that youngsters were coming in from, say, Madurai or, very small towns. And for the first time, they were getting exposed to all of this, this entire freedom, moving around with the opposite sex and, probably just letting go. And then it became a very emotional trauma for them when they got ditched in a particular relationship. And a lot of suicides happened. And we found a similar trend coming in Pune. So what I'm saying is, using technology, predictive indices to be able to take an informed decision is one thing. The other thing is also, you said all of you have workforces. So when geotagging came, I don't know how many of you are used to geotagging. You could actually find out where is the salesperson. वो खाना खा के सो रहा है कि actually he's on the field. So you can use technology. And I must explain to you one of the cases that I handled. So we were doing interviews through HireView. This is a tool which you use where a person can be interviewed remotely. And this is 2015. We interviewed somebody and the person came onto the Accenture technology platform. Then we found he didn't know anything. We were wondering how. So that case came up to me because I used to lead employee relations. So we asked, what do you do? He actually had somebody mime. There somebody sitting down and when the questions were answering, he was responding. So he was just miming. So you can have that technology as well. So, you can use technology in different types. And I just thought I'd add this angle.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Chandra, I want your view, for technology, especially because you have large-scale shop floor set of employees as well. Do you think technology is more inclusive in nature when it comes to learning solutions or maybe performance appraisal? How do you think it helps different set of people?
Yeah, see, that's a very good question. Because when it comes to shop floor employees, they don't have easy access to, let's say, employee portal. If I talk about e-learning being on employee portal. Also today, they are not allowed to carry the smartphones also inside. So at the same time, we talk about completion of e-learning or appraisals, goal setting, etc. So what we have done is we have created certain employee kiosks where, they can go there and access, apply for leave and, so near their workplace, kiosks have been created. And that's how we enable the, technology access to employees. But yeah, it does remain a challenge because expecting them to do some of this away from work also, is not a very good expectation. So yeah, but it remains a challenge for the shop floor employees.
Yeah. And I think it's same for pharma company as well. Yash also mentioned, right, that 90% of people, if you go to a pharma manufacturing setup also, you have to do gowning and then you have to leave your phone. Even if there is an emergency, there is anything, you don't have really access to phone, you are contacted on your intercom within the, premise. So I think those places, traditional ways are still existing and might be, more relevant. With that, Avinash, do you think the solutions which you provide to customers, you really take care of this whole inclusion aspect?
Right. So like I said earlier, vernacular is one part that we emphasize on. Because India is a diverse country and there are different people in different locations, a lot of us have large workforces working in remote locations. I'll give you one instance. I was in banking earlier in an MNC bank, very high on security protocol regulations. And everyone had to undergo trainings, right? Regular trainings. As a bank, you have to go through that. So there was this anti-money laundering training, which is sounds like a very high-end kind of a training. And every employee has to go through it, right? So I used to manage this team of maybe 10 people who used to go and open accounts, salary accounts. A lot of your HR folks, you all interact with these salary accounts, people who come to open your salary accounts for employees. Not a very highly skilled guy, just has to fill up a form and give a kit or something, a bank account opening kit. He has to go through the same training, okay? Now, it is designed in such a high language, being an MNC bank, that, a lot of jargons around money laundering and stuff, which he needs to know these, but he looks at it from a training perspective, nothing else. I need to, a checkbox, I need to do it, get it done. What do? I go to manager, sir, ye mera login hai, aap karwa dena. And you would have seen this happening in your recollections also, right? Why? Because HR has given a deadline. This has to happen by the end of this week, this training has to be get done. Now, what could you have done better there? you could have made it into a vernacular kind of a platform where he's able to understand it. Because this person really doesn't want to go through the entire journey, that UI part of it, of going through the training in entirety, and then passing a test at the end of it, mind you. If he doesn't score, he has to go through it all over again, right? So that's why we have tried to keep it in small bites and nuggets, the training capsules that we provide on our platform, and mobile friendly and gamified. These are some of the keywords that we have realized are important to make it more inclusive to everyone in the organization. Don't think of it as your ideal employee going through this training. Think of it as basic as your frontline employee going through this training, because he's the one who's important to you to get the business at the end of the day. That is what we have kept in mind when designing our products.
Sure, sure. Okay, so my next question to Swaroop. Whole employee experience and what do we set as a tone for employee experience comes from some ethos of the organization, right? Values, culture. So how these culture nuances are showcased in employee experience, or how do we do it really?
Yeah, very, very good question, and it's very pertinent. See, culture plays a great role in terms of employee experience. All of you must have seen that if there is a toxic culture in an organization, person will have a negative employee experience. So it is definitely going to hurt. And similarly, if there is a too rigid and hierarchical culture is there, then again it is going to, negatively impact the employee experience. So there are also organizations where, it's very informal kind of organization, okay, and the culture is disorganized. That also it will create a mistrust among employees, and that is going to have negative repercussion on employee experience so far. Okay, and apart from that, there is another thing is that how at workplace, okay, how a person is the interaction between their supervisor and employees and with their co-workers on a day-to-day basis. So that also set the tone for employee experience. That is also a part of culture. Okay, so these are some of the things which we look at, and then when we look at employee experience, what we can do is that the employee, there should be a inclusive, and person need to be open to open culture where person can give feedback and ideas can share with the company, okay, and apart from that, the culture of reward and recognition is one of the important aspect of shaping of in the culture, and as well as with employee experience. So that's from.
Sure. I think multiple things which
Yes.
we need to weave in. Your views?
I want to close the tech part first.
Yeah.
See, I don't know how many of you have experienced Meta, but it's such a powerful tool where you can actually virtually be able to handle conferences, questions. It's a fantastic tool. Right now, quite expensive, but what I'm saying is today, there is a lot of stuff that you can do with technology. That's one. Two is, every process that we have is going to change. For instance, performance management, which is a big thing for everybody, everywhere. We normally have discussions, and then we have, appraisals, and then, we write the forms, we put it on Workday or wherever it is as a HRMS tool, and then, there's a reward system. But what is going to change is that every experience of yours is going to be on the web. Because, the projects that you did, if you led a particular project, or if you contributed to something outside, your recognition pieces, it's all going to come together to be able to. So what I'm trying to tell you is technology is going to change every aspect of whatever are the touch points of an employee life cycle. So therefore, we need to understand and reskill, unskill, reskill ourselves to be able to match. We're all doing it fantabulously, but what I'm saying is, I take some chapter of what Yash was saying. I don't think that it's anything to be scared of, because all of us have adapted, and as human beings, we're very sharp, because it's true that the changes which happen will happen very, very sharply. What took 20 years will probably take 2 years now, and that will keep on changing. But it's about adapting and learning to the new pieces. As far as culture is concerned, I think it's about the experience. So every organization has a culture. And I'm a student of sociology. I studied in Delhi School of Economics. And if you look at the definition of culture by Ogburn and Nimkoff, those used to be the sociologists in those days, it's really an amalgamation of practices, of values, of everything. So for every organization, it's really how we as employees live the values. So there are certain norms which are there on the face and certain things which are completely silent. So for us to understand and build that culture is about building the practices today and embedding the processes. There are certain do's and don'ts for every culture. Everything that as people managers, and I keep saying people managers because I want to also include the business. It's just not about human resources folks. We are a representation of say 1 to 100 or 1 to 150 or 1 to 200, whatever is the count in your organization. But we have to influence others, all our stakeholders, to ensure that they build the culture that as an organization, we are converging into a particular midpoint or a path where people feel welcome to come to our organization. There are reasons why some people work for certain organizations, and there are reasons why somebody is very, very sharp but doesn't come to that organization. It's about building. What is it that will work for us? What works in a farm? And it's one size doesn't fit all. What works in a pharma didn't work in a tech. What worked in a tech didn't work somewhere else. So it's about embracing and understanding what fits into our organization, sitting and having those candid conversations to design thinking, and putting a path forward to build that. I mean, there's no easy route. I mean, all of us will discover that. But I think the culture of an organization is really the stickiness that we build into. There are organizations where people don't leave at all. And there are people where, you know, the attrition is at, say, 20%, 30%. So I think, yeah.
So I will just attempt. See, basically, we have to understand what is technology itself. Okay. So in the past, you had HRMS, and you had to have a login and all that. Today, we are talking internet. Okay, you have apps. Today, if somebody says, you know, this is a portal, www login, they'll say, where is the app? Give me the app. Tomorrow, it will be AI. Okay, day after tomorrow, it will be something else. You'll be totally surrounded by technology. So that is something we need to be aware of, that what technology is moving always. But it comes to culture. Culture is something we have in the past, present, and future. Again, I'm not saying past culture will work in the future. But culture is something, as an organization, you identify what will work for me today, certain North Star we want to keep for ourselves. Sometimes we have to be aware whether technology is facilitating the culture or harming the culture. So as HR, we need to be very mindful of that. For example, if we want to have a, let's say, a highly collaborative culture or a highly caring culture, but people are going to sit in isolation and even do e-learning online, you know, and, you know, become very, for the self, you know, become very self-oriented. What am I getting? What am I getting? Vis-a-vis how I am helping, how I am doing teamwork. Do I facilitate somebody else's learning? Am I giving up something for others? So what we need to do is, first of all, as organizations, become aware of what are our cultural pillars, identify those, and ensure that technology facilitates that culture, and not let technology drive and build the culture. For example, if there's an organization which is going full, you know, hog into technology, doing all the latest things, the AIs and everything online, and portal, and employees working from home, etc., etc. 5 years from now, suddenly the organization may realize that, what is this culture we have developed in the organization? This is not really helping us. You know, let us then rethink. So I think technology, as Amit was saying, is a great tool. And we have to understand that tool and use it to build and sustain the culture that we need in our organization.
Very, very true. And you know, that reminds me, in fact, I wanted to add when Amit said, and I told Swaroop yesterday that if someone asks me go on Percipio and do a course, I mean, I will keep thinking about it for 15 days and then I'll gather the courage to do an e-learning course. Because for me, learning experience is not about e-learning. For me, learning experience is getting ready, going in a training room, sitting with my notepad, and like a studious student, I want to learn. I want to have 10 more people with me and exchange thoughts. So I think, yeah, Amit, you want to add something?
No, I think it's a great point around culture, and I think honestly we're at that stage, and this is just a thought I just want to leave everyone with, right? Which is, one way is to say, what do we stand for as a company, right, as a culture? But I think there are 3 words that are really emerging, which if they are not inherent to every culture that's there in every organization, then we run the risk of actually becoming non-existent. And the 3 words that I want to leave you with is, one is empowerment, the other is aspiration, and the third is ownership. Now, why do I see these 3 words are really critical, right? Because empowerment really is about solving problems. So imagine you enter a hotel, right? And it's your birthday. And the front desk receptionist says, happy birthday, sir. Happy birthday, ma'am. Because it's your birthday, we are happy to just give you a cake that's there, and it's in your room. That's a sense of empowerment in front of the customer, right? It enhances the experience. Now imagine if the front desk receptionist had to take an approval, go to her floor desk manager, then goes to the F&B manager, and then goes to the chef, and then by the time it comes back, the birthday is over, right? You've lost the opportunity. So empowerment is about, can people who are particularly in the front line take decisions that impact or deliver customer delight? Aspiration, and why do I think it's particularly important in this country, right? If you go to any village today in India, you will see 3 things that were not there before. You will see an English medium school. They may be teaching in Hindi, but the school is English medium. Yeah? You will see girls wearing jeans, and you will see a beauty parlor. Now, why are these 3 things important? Because this is indicative of an aspirational India. So people have aspirations. They want to grow. They want to get better. So unless your culture allows people to live, outlive, and outgrow their aspirations, right? You're not in a position wherein you are relevant, no matter what your cultural pillars may be. And the third is a sense of ownership, which is you do things that you believe are right without someone else telling it to you, right? If you watch any World Cup, the 2022 Soccer World Cup, for example, you would see, and I'm not saying this because I work for a company called Yokohama, but you would see the Japanese fans after a game was over, right? They would go and clean the entire stadium, even if Japan was not playing in that game, right? Now, no one asked them to clean it, right? But it's part of their culture to say, we must leave the workplace clean before the premises that we are in clean. It's ingrained, it's inbuilt. So unless organizations don't build this into their cultural pillars, and they can be beautifully enabled by technology. But, just like I said, I just want to leave 3 words from a culture perspective, which is ownership, empowerment, and aspiration. And if these 3 things come to life, at the end of the day, you'll find everything else that you work through will make, will build or, bring your organization to life. So just.
I think the foundation, right? The foundation is very, very and extremely critical. That brings me to the last question I want answer from all of you is, and let's start from Tanay. According to you, which is the North Star, taking the word you coined, and the key element in creating exceptional employee experience for today and for the future?
So there's a lot of aspects there. So I think it's about, for organizations, it's about being agile. And having that agility means embracing change. And as for us as employees, also to understand that change and embrace and adapt that change. So one is to adopt and adapt. That's what I keep saying all the time, to everything. I mean, new ways of lifestyle, new technologies, everything, because even relationships are new. For organizations, it's about understanding what is future ready. And I was speaking because I led that for Accenture. And future ready is just not future ready in the people, but also about understanding what kind of ergonomics do we have for our, and I think that gentleman there, you spoke about it as well. Is this chair going to be the way it is? Is it going to lean? I mean, so designing of the workplace is about understanding what is required. Designing of the processes means, what we did today, how can we make it better? It's about ensuring that how do we reskill and upskill our manpower that's coming in? What kind of future-ready organization do we need to, with the people that are coming in? Because you're going to have different generations that are coming in. Now you have boomers. The boomers will go. Then, the Gen Z and, the other generations will come in. So how do you create an organization that envelops all of it and works in cohesiveness to build that wow culture as a great place to work? So lots of things, but yeah.
Yeah, but the feeling of wow. Yes.
Right, I'd like to keep it short. I think what we need to do is give that space to that employee, give him the freedom to be himself. I think a lot of time we as HR enforce a lot of policies down on them and go through this training, go through that, But like Amit said, they all have their own aspirations. So we need to enable them to let them go their own way. Technology can only help it in a certain way, but as a culture, we need to build that within the organization. Let them be themselves and let them grow themselves. And you need, as HR need to support them in that journey. Everyone has a different journey of their own. You need to identify that and let them go along those lines.
Sure. Being inclusive and enable, maybe, in whatever they want to do. Okay.
So for me, it is very simply do unto others as you expect to be done to you. That to me is employee experience. Yes. So, how you want to be treated, please treat everybody like that.
Yeah, and I think that is very critical. And generally what we end up doing is the way we are treated, we try to, do the same thing. Yeah, but I think flipping the coin, yes.
Yeah, for me, the true North Star would be employee well-being. Okay, so employee well-being is one of the most critical aspect when it goes for employee experience so far. So as per, there is a study Gallup has done, okay, so they found that money is no more a attraction for employees to join an organization. They look for workplace who's concerned about employees' well-being. So as per Gallup, there are 5 factors which impacts employee well-being. One is career well-being. Second is their emotional well-being. Then social, financial, and community well-being. So career well-being, how I'm feeling at job today, okay? So that's about, is there job security is there or not? So people look for, those kind of organization where job security is there, they're going to be attracted towards them. And second thing is that social and emotional is one of the factor. How do I have peers with whom I can share my problems, I can discuss. So these are some of the things. Nowadays people are getting stressed, okay? So this hybrid work model emerging, people are working from home. So there no way to vent out their, feelings, okay?
Yeah,
there is no coffee break and, going with friends and talking and discussing issues. So that's no more available. So that's why social well-being is one of the important factor. And another important factor is that financial well-being. So nowadays, a lot of people you will find is that people are concerned about their financial security, okay? How am I managing my finances? So there are companies goes out of the ways of, teaching them how can you handle, which all things, how can you save your taxes, where you can invest, how much you should spend, all that stuff they go out so that it gives them, at the end of the day, security and their peace of mind. When they come to work, there is no stress around it. And apart from that, there is a community well-being is one of the important factor, which is where I'm living, okay? So how am I making a purpose? Is there a purpose to my work, okay? So is it the community where I'm living, it is solving my purpose? But that is also one of the important factors. So if we focus on employee well-being, then definitely employees are going to have a good employee experience.
Yeah, I think very important 5 pillars which you mentioned. And it covers many of other aspects also. But yeah, well-being, we need another panel discussion on this topic for sure. Yes,
yes, so sorry, very quickly, I think any experience that enables employees to become better or best versions of themselves is the North Star that I would measure by. Because employee life cycles are becoming shorter. No one's going to work with you for a lifetime. Those days are behind us. But the experience that people have, right, when they work with you, in terms of everything that happens that enables them to become the best version of themselves, It gives them the confidence to become better wherever they may go in life. But the experience that they've had with you is something they never forget. Like I said, no, people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. People will never forget how you made them feel. So the feeling of getting or being better or being the best version of yourself, if someone remembers their stint with you as something that enabled them to be the best version of themselves that was there, that set them up for bigger things, then I think that's the North Star for employee experience for me.
Yeah, very true. So I think employee life cycle, all the pillars under employee life cycle, how it is impacting overall employee experience. Now, how I am seeing after this discussion is both. It's also very strongly individual specific, the freedom, the choices and customization. At the same time, it also talks about the whole organization and the community they are in and day out, and how that serves, that they belong there because they relate to, the way things are done there. I think that's it. Thank you so much, all of you. We are open for maybe, how much time we have? Sure. There's a gentleman there.
Hi. With the economic downturn that is expected to hit us, employee well-being or any spend that you do there is likely to be the first cut. So how would you respond to the fact that leaner times are yet to come, and a lot of what is happening in the industry right now is spend on employee well-being, spend on workplace, etc. So how would you deal with that?
Okay, is your question to someone very specific?
No, generally.
Okay.
See, well-being is about, what you build as practices, not necessarily that you need to spend huge amounts, so there is a CSR budget, there's a, well-being budget. So it's about what is the practices and how do you ensure that those practices reach, right to the last person in the chain. While yes, there will be cuts for sure. I mean, the recession is in and there's no going away from there. But not everything is about money. It's also about actions and certain things which are on the face and certain things which are, which you do as an organization to build those as a practice.
In fact, I just go one step further and say that if you're in situations wherein well-being budgets are being cut disproportionately compared to other budgets, then you've got to question the commitment to well-being, because well-being is not spending, it's investment, right? And I'm seeing we went through the worst possible time in 2020 and 2021, and organizations that shone or came through at that point were companies that continued to stay invested in well-being. So I think if a company starts pulling that back disproportionately compared to other spends, you've got to question whether you're the right company, or is the company actually as invested in well-being as they make it out to be. Because companies that really are invested in well-being stay there for the long term, right? It's like a mutual fund. It will go down, but eventually in the longer term, it's bound to keep improving if you see it as an investment. And I think that's up to us to be able to go back and let leaders know why we believe that way.
I would like to add up, Amit, what he said. So when we talk about well-being, okay, so there are, in our previous organization, what I've implemented is that, there are some of the, wellness activities, okay, which we have conducted in our organization, which did not cost us a penny, okay. So the hack is you can use that similar kind of thing is that we had a benefit partner, okay. So we had a broker who was doing Mediclaim, insurance renewal and all that stuff. They do all those, provide all those services, okay. So when they partner with us for insurance renewal, so there is a kind of responsibility they have to fulfill some of our obligations towards organization. So we ask them to do certain kind of programs, health checkup, health talk, virtual yoga session, all those things we have got from them free of cost. So it's not that every time you have to, as Tanya said, that every time you have to spend money for this, but there are certain innovative ways you can adopt and provide certain kind of, benefits to your employees so that they feel, valued and they have a great experience working with your organization.
Thank you so much, everyone.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.